Good afternoon, Knicks Nation. Today is Tuesday, the 11th day of November, 2025. Happy Veterans Day to all of the veterans out there. Thank you for your service. I hope you and your family are well today on this Veterans Day, and that the needs of you and your family in terms of food, shelter, clothing, as well as health are being met today. Blessings upon those that work in health with the first responders who every day are doing their best to save lives. Blessings also upon those that pick up garbage, keep our places clean, and those that make deliveries for our convenience. Double blessings on the men and women trying to help rescue, deliver, and recover teenagers and children victims of child molestation and pedophilia. People that are also victims of pornography and child pornography, prostitution, child prostitution, human trafficking, and sex slavery. Double curses on the perpetrators, the profiteers, and the perverts that make these industries go. Finally, blessings upon the homeless. More than 700,000 men, women, children, families, senior citizens, military veterans, homeless in the United States of America. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. Special shout out to Michael Ray Richardson. Sugar Ray Richardson passed away at age 70. Sugar Ray Richardson, of course, was drafted by the Knicks in the early 80s. Could have been one of the great ones. Was derailed by some drug issues, but really talented basketball player. Died, I feel, young at age 70. But rest in peace, Michael Ray, Sugar Ray Richardson. So tonight, the Knicks are playing the Memphis Grizzlies. Right now, the Knicks woke up this morning second in the East at 6-3, early in the season still. Pistons are balling. They 9-2. Pistons right now the hottest team in the NBA with a 7-game winning streak. Win last night over a really desperate Washington Wizards team by 2, 135-137 in overtime, with K dropping 46. Yeah, they're rough in Detroit. So, like I said, we're not surprised at that. We knew they would be. And there's like 1, 2, 3 team tie below the Knicks, Miami, Cleveland, and the Bucks at 7-4. And then there's Chicago, Philly at 6-4. Tonight, Philly is playing Boston, who is 5-6, and Philly is 6-4. They're playing in Philly, and so a win by Boston tonight would help the Knicks, but it doesn't really matter. And if the Knicks win today against Memphis, they'll be 7-3. That would help. It's not going to. They'll pick up a half a game on Detroit. Again, this is a long season. 82 games is a grind, and things are going to shake out, in the East. And it's going to be a dogfight. And, it's already started. So tonight, though, we're not sure. I am myself doubtful as to whether we will see Mitchell Robinson tonight. I feel like the Knicks probably want him to be available tomorrow against Orlando, in the Garden. And Orlando would be, we need that big man there. With Memphis missing Edie, it's not as big a deal today to have Cat and Shamet start. Have Shamet start in the starting lineup. Of note, the last 2 games that the Knicks played Memphis, they won both of those games. Both of those games had John Morant. But the thing about both of those games is Deuce had big games against them twice. One 14-point game, one 17-point game. He hit 3 threes in the last game they played against Memphis. That was in Memphis. And so sometimes players, just like we know there's Knick killers, Knicks have players that are other team killers, So sometimes guy just plays good against a certain team. So Deuce is going to get, his minutes today. So let's see what happens if he comes out firing today. That's going to be interesting. But I'm expecting the Knicks to continue to ball in the way they've been balling. Clarkson been balling out. Deuce been balling out. Josh Hart been balling out. The bench, Landry Shamet been balling out. A key today is if MitchRob doesn't play, Yabusele is going to get extra minutes. He's going to get definitely. He got 10 minutes the last game, but he normally might not get rotation minutes, as I said, if MitchRob is playing. So if MitchRob is not playing, he will definitely get rotation minutes today. So that's going to be a key. So that means he's got to be ready to play, especially on the defensive end of the floor. He's got to be ready to play. If he is, that's going to be good for our bench. Now, scoring wise, Yabusele has not really had a great offensive season so far. He's been, shooting below. I think he was shooting, the last time I looked, he was shooting 23% from three. Let me see what it looks like now. Yeah, he's shooting 24% from three now. So a little uptick. And 67, let's see, 25% from the field. So offensively, Yabusele has not been all that. And defensively, he's been a little better. But we need him to step up, and it's a long season, like I said. So he got time to get his act together. And the Knicks are good enough to give him time to get his act together. So today, if Shamet starts, you have Shamet starting at the 2 guard spot. McCall will move to the 3, OG to the 4. Of course, you'll have JB at the point, and then you'll have Cat at the 5. And Memphis don't have anybody to deal with Cat. They just don't. And they're going to have a bigger problem today, in my view, because the Nick killer they did have was Desmond Bane. And, of course, we know we're going to see him tomorrow in the Garden with Orlando. But Desmond Bane is no longer with Memphis. They got Casey, Caldwell Pope. And Caldwell Pope has been a Nick killer throughout his career. Like I mentioned yesterday, he has been a Nick killer when he was at Denver, when he was at LA. He was a Nick killer in all those places, and now he's in Memphis. So the Knicks are going to have to guard him, but then again, the Knicks got to guard everybody. We got to play everybody. Of course, there's John Morant. He's going to show up, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him dropping 40 today because we're playing in the Garden, and yeah, that's the thing. Box office job at the Garden. So Edie is out. Somebody named Javon Small is out. Ty Jerome, who they got in the offseason, he's out. So, but they're going to have Jaren Jackson Jr., who can ball. Jackson Jr., when he's available, is a serious player. He's been defensive player of the year once. Criteria Caldwell Pope. And they're going to have Jock Landell and Santi Aldama taking spots at the 5. The Knicks are better than the Grizzlies. But, as we always say, this is the league. And anybody can be anybody on any given night. Jalen Wells starting at the small forward spot. It's one of these teams like this, all of a sudden Jalen Wells hit 5 threes or something like that. This is what happens, okay? Like I said, I'm expecting Ja to go off for 40 today. Not because the Knicks can't guard him, nobody can guard him, but because he's Ja Morant and it's the Garden. That's okay. We need to continue to do what the Knicks do. Team defense, the matchup zone, wing stop, being wing stop, and they've been very good this year. Both OG and McCall, very good on both ends of the floor. Like I said, the new offensive system that Brown has implemented is benefiting both of our forwards. Both of those guys are really benefiting from this, both in different ways. The running, the easy baskets for McCall, and of course OG's been getting the corner threes that he is always. When OG was in Montreal, when he was in Toronto, he was already one of the top 3-point corner shooters in the league. Okay, he brought that with him, and then of course he was already one of the top defenders. But in this Knicks offense, he's getting much more open looks. He's also able to go off the dribble. He's brought that into his game since he come to New York. He wasn't really big on that in Toronto, but he brought it last year. He started bringing that, added that to his game, and he's already a top-notch defender. So when you add that with the Brown, the way Brown is running both ends of the floor, and then nobody's having to play 40 minutes, both those guys go to another level. And if you could get that kind of production out of those two guys on a regular basis, which I think is sustainable, the Knicks are going to be rough because Brunson's going to be Brunson, Cat's going to be Cat. Okay, so if you getting the wing stop on both sides, the Knicks are going to be rough. Okay, and then now you adding, a Jordan Clarkson, the Deuce McBride, a Josh Hart, plus your Landry Shamets of the world. And then, like I said, they can be patient with Yabusele. And it ain't like they got to press to get anything out of him now. He can be solid. And let's hope tonight he is. And the Knicks do have a big advantage over Memphis and this is going to be a theme throughout the season. The second unit for the Knicks is stronger than Memphis' second unit. See, even let's call it even. I don't think it's going to be. I think the Knicks' first unit is better than Memphis also. But let's call it even for the sake of argument. It is John Morant. It is the Garden, right? So let's say they could play to an even standoff between the first units, right? But then you bring in Hart, Deuce. You're bringing in Yabusele. And then, of course, you got Jordan Clarkson. Now, this Cam Spencer, Vince Williams Jr., Santi Aldama, another Nick killer, and Jock Liddell. They're their second unit for Memphis. That ain't going to work. That ain't going to work. Okay? That ain't going to work. So, the Knicks got a big advantage in the bench now. Now, don't let Clarkson continue his double-digit role, and don't let Deuce have, like he had the last two times they met Memphis, a nice three-point shooting game. 3 threes, he hit a couple times against them. So if his 3-point is dropping, and what he did last year, I just was reminded. I went back and looked at a little bit of that game. Deuce went length of the court and flushed it on. Somebody was trying to guard him, and he went length of the court. It looked like he carried the ball a little bit. They didn't call it. But Deuce went length of the court and flushed it on somebody in Memphis and posterized somebody out there. Some poor soul, they chalked up. So if he comes out like that today, that bench is going to be dynamic. Clarkson, Deuce, Hart, and you know what Hart bringing with the boys in mess. So, again, this is important. Please, nobody gets hurt. That's important. Don't get hurt today. This team is not as good as the Knicks, but this is the league, so we got to take everybody seriously. MitchRob probably sits today, and he probably comes out tomorrow to play against the Orlando Magic, who's bringing in a Desmond Bane and bringing in, the crew that really is playoff level. They're just not playing that way yet. I think they're going to make a run later in the season, Orlando, when they get completely healthy and in sync. But they're wounded animals, so is the Grizzlies. Again, we talked about the Knicks stomping on people you expect them to stomp on. But now when you're talking about the Grizzlies, the Magic, and then the Miami Heat, now you come in, a nice crew of solid NBA teams. And starting tonight, let's see what we got and see what the Knicks bring to the table. I'm very confident, though. They're starting to get in the flow. And it's real early. And like I said, Brown, when his teams are successful, they usually are successful early. We want to be playing good in April, though. But for now, we'll take these dubs, right? We'll stack up these dubs. We don't complain about winning early, right? So this is the 10th game of the year for the Knicks. They're 6-3. They got the top differential in the Eastern Conference. I think they're the 4th best differential in the NBA. And so the top differential, 8.7 point differential in the Eastern Conference. They've only been giving up 112 points a game. If they can continue that, and in fact, that per game average in terms of opponents' points per game, guess what? The Knicks are number 2 in the East behind the Celtics. The Celtics give up 110, the Knicks give up 112. But the Celtics are only +2 in the differential because they're hurting offensively. They don't have KP, they don't have Al Horford, and of course, they don't have Jason Tatum, so they're hurting a little bit offensively. But they're number 1 in the East in terms of opponents' points per game. The Knicks are right behind them. And the Knicks, as far as offensive points per game, the Knicks are 4th in the East. So the Knicks are 2nd in the East defensive points per game, and they're 4th in the East offensive points per game, and they're number 1 in differential. So if they can continue, which I feel they can, on those levels for this game tonight, we should be in good shape. So let's see what happens. Nobody get hurt. Like I said, let's do our thing. That's it. So probably MitchRob sits. You're starting Shamet. Yabusele is going to get more minutes because he's coming off the bench with the Mobb Deep crew in place of Shamet. Deuce usually has good games against these guys. Everything looking good. but they got to play the game. So let's get this dub tonight. Y'all enjoy your Veterans Day, to all those people out there that put on that uniform to defend their country. You know, whatever the political ramifications have been, which have always been with war, but you can't blame the young men and women that go out there to risk their life to do that, for their country. So thank you all. Be safe out there. Shalom.